I really enjoyed this chapter. The part that I really liked the most was the appendix, where it talked about the values of teaching people and the things that I found the most important. The one that I found the most important was compassion. When we're working with people, we need to have compassion because it can open so many doors. And if we lack compassion, and it can shut so many doors that could have been amazing. When we are able to meet others where they are, that's going to help us a lot too. We need to be able to realize that everyone has strengths and can bring things into the picture that we didn't expect or that maybe we weren't prepared for. And that's great. And when we accept other people's learnings and perspectives, we're able to grow more. We also need to accept people's backgrounds because some people are going to have a background that makes it harder for them to accept what you're teaching them. And we need to know that and understand that and find a way to fit and help them where they are because everyone has agency. I'm really scared about the idea of having to market my workshop to the public and find an audience. So it was really helpful for me to read about marketing and how making sure you're reaching your target audience is important. That just makes perfect sense because I plan on doing a workshop on alcohol use, particularly in teenagers, and I plan on targeting it towards teenagers and the parents of teenagers. So it would make no sense for me to hand out a flyer to preschool parents because it's not going to apply to them. I also love the idea of partnerships. I want to see if there's a Mothers Against Drunk Driving area organization in my area and see if I could partner with them because that would be really useful to be able to work with someone else that is working towards the same common goal. Throughout this whole thing, I realized how important it is to know your audience and know what your audience needs and to meet their needs. Because if we don't know their needs, we can't come up with goals that are going to help them. And so our workshop may not be the most useful for them. And if we don't know who our audience is, we can't target our workshop towards them. When I learned about how family life education focused on prevention, I really liked that idea because it's so important to prevent problems from occurring. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, I think is the common saying, and that's just so true. When I thought about the different levels, I thought that probably at this point in my life, I'm going to be one. At first, I thought it would be primary, but as I thought about it more, I realized that I'm probably going to be doing more secondary, working with audiences with some sorts of risks to prevent more serious problems. Because I can see myself at this stage in my life trying to work with Health and Human Services to work with families who have maybe been recommended to receive some assistance and to help them. And I think that would be really awesome. But that's more on helping people who already have some difficulties to prevent more serious difficulties. Primary sounds interesting as well, and that's more like what I plan on my workshop being, is helping families develop skills they need to build strong relationships and skills before any problems occur. And I live in southeastern Idaho, so I'm not thinking that a ton of the people I target my alcohol use program to are going to have a huge problem with it, but they might meet people who are, so that's definitely a primary, so they have the skills. In my professional career, I plan to be a counselor, so that's going to be more tertiary, working with people who already experience distress. The stages of family life education I also found really interesting, that you need to know your problem. I was studying for my research methods class today, and it talked about how you need a very detailed and specific problem statement. And I think the same thing holds true in family life education. Because if you don't have a detailed idea of what the problem is and what you're working to prevent or deal with, then you're not going to be able to do it. And you need to know what the problem is in your area and with your population. Because it's going to be, the alcohol use in teenagers is going to be a lot different in southeastern Idaho than it is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts. Because they're different areas, they're different demographics, they're different people, they're different backgrounds, and so it's important to know that. You also need to make sure that your program is designed for your target group and you know what their needs are, and you know what the goals need to be, because that will help you to meet their needs. Because if you don't know someone's needs, you can't meet them. It's also so important to be professional, and that made me really respect the responsibility to create a literature review, because it's so important to have all that research at your fingertips and to know what you need to know and what the research backs you up on, because people are more likely to believe you if you have that research backing you. And you'll feel more confident if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it's going to help. I thought that the approaches to family lifestyle education were really interesting as well. Probably in my personal life, I'll use more of a facilitator approach where I have an idea, but I go off, I don't really have an idea. Like, I know what I want to talk about, but I don't have a plan so that it can be based on the learners. But in my workshop now, as it's going to be short term, it'll probably be more of a collaborator approach where I can use their needs but have an organized idea to make sure that it goes over well. All in all, I thought these readings were very educational and really helped me to feel more confident in the program.